Hey guys, Keela here. I decided to try something new, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So today we are going to be doing a review of Penumbra. The reason I'm doing this review is because I thought it would be interesting to do a recap of a game that I completed on my YouTube channel. It would let me give you guys a bit of opinion, and if you're looking to pick it up yourself, then you can check this out instead. This is designed for people who have already seen the walkthrough, so there's going to be spoilers. I'm going to repeat that again. There's going to be spoilers. There will even be spoilers written on the screen, but I know you guys, like half of you don't apparently know how to read, so spoilers. There's going to be spoilers in this review. Spoilers. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I just want to thank Silverworld Entertainment. They were the ones that recommended this idea to me, and I thought, you know, this is actually a pretty cool idea. So let's get into it. Penumbra starts out with some very eerie atmosphere. You wake up and you're like, kind of creeped out because there's a lot of noises and things are going on. But even before that, you get this really cool text intro, essentially, where in the background they're telling you these mysterious things like, I have to ask you to do these things, and blah blah blah. And so, as you start playing, you're creeping around, and it throws you pretty quickly into the whole physics mindset. It shows you that, remember, this is the predecessor for Amnesia, so it's showing you, you can pick up everything, and everything has its own bit of weight, and, it's really intuitive as you pick things up, and you discover the coin, and the coin you can, like, crush in the machine. The whole game is built around this intuitive mindset, which can actually get really frustrating really quickly. So from the beginning, you kind of figure out, I have to take this coin, and I have to unscrew the screws, essentially. I have to unscrew the screws that are holding the vent together. And so when you go and do that, you realize, oh, okay, well this coin is too fat, it's too thick for me to put in there, so I have to, that's what she said, so I have to go and crush it with this machine that I've seen crush other things. So, it's a really interesting beginning to a game, especially for a horror game, because normally you just start out and you're running out and there's monsters and things are coming after you, or you're like really slow starting out and it's this really nice atmosphere, and then all of a sudden things start to get a little bit more creepy, kind of like a movie. So you go through this area, and then I got lost, like, as in frustrated right off the bat. And that's not a very good thing. Like I said, the game is very intuitive, but some things aren't really explained. For instance, the blue screen that it'll show when you're crouching means that you're hidden. I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that until somebody wrote me a comment that was like, well, blue means you're hidden. How was I supposed to know that? I don't know. But the thing that got me the most was you had to get the soda from the machine. I guess any logical person would have thought, if I put the coin in the vending machine, maybe I'll get a soda out. And they would have been surprised when they did. I didn't think that. I just kept going because, I was following the path that was provided. I did like, however, how in the beginning of the game you could see the monster through these bars. That was really interesting. So you could almost get to know your enemy pretty quickly. And if anybody was like, stopping to look at it, it's on display essentially. And it was really an interesting concept where, by the way, I like this game better than Amnesia because, I don't know, Amnesia, there's just a different feel to it, I guess. This game feels like it takes more intuition, and I don't like the idea of Amnesia. You never really get to see the monster unless you're, like, going to die. In the beginning of this walkthrough, I actually confront the monster within the first 20 minutes? Yeah, 20 minutes. And he doesn't manage to kill me, but he does get really close. I mean, I think it might have actually been a bug, but whatever. So, you're supposed to grab the soda, you go to this thermostat thing. So even if you got the soda, I don't know how you would have known to use the soda in the coolant system. It doesn't make any sense. Well, moving on from that, because, me off. We go into this area and you see this guy who's dead, and you're introduced to all these notes. And the notes start explaining the different things that happen with the monsters. That's pretty cool. I thought that was, a good way of storytelling, because I like notes. So you pick up these notes, and then you can also pick up this cassette tape later on with this guy who's leaving, notes for about the virus for anybody who happens to find it, and he meets an unfortunate end before he can tell you what their weakness is. So it has this whole big mounting level of suspense. Well, what happens if I do run into one of these monsters that are prowling around this place? And so you keep going, and you interact with the save point that I didn't know was a save point at first. But it was cool that you didn't know that it was a save point at first, because they would hint at it instead. It would talk about, like, pieces of you were being drawn into it. And I really like that. That's really different from the usual, like, immersion breaker where it just tells you, this is a save point. You click on it. I bumped my microphone. Further on in the game, you have to solve another puzzle where you have to break the electrical box with a rock. I did this puzzle on my own. Like half the puzzles I cheated on this game because they're really difficult, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Every game needs this level of difficulty, and I really support the fact that this game had that level of difficulty. So when I realized that when I found the rock and I threw it at the thing, there was this sense of accomplishment because of the difficulty of the puzzles that you don't normally get in other games. For instance, the new Legend of Zelda game. As you play through it, you encounter these puzzles, but the puzzles are painfully easy, especially because they give you the chance to cheat, essentially. You can ask the AI what to do or something like that. That takes out, the level of interest in here. So I was really impressed by that. As far as the end of the first video of my thing goes, I was terrified of the monster. He was scary, but he was humanoid and he was a little bit buggy. I can't really fault them on that because this is early, an early idea. This was them trying to figure out their concept. So overall, I really approve of the way that the creature looks and the way that he behaves. The fact that he talks makes him so much more interesting. It gives him this humanoid level of, like, basically interaction with you and your character. Now, things in this game start to get really weird really fast. As you continue through the levels, you are introduced to the idea of a computer interface, which is interesting, because you're introduced to the idea that you can control all of these other things. So you go to a computer terminal and you unlock a door that's halfway across the facility, and you have to go back and discover, what's behind that door. I like that. I also like the fact that your character says things and makes notes about things that are more interesting than your typical, oh, this door is locked. He'll actually say something a little bit more interesting about, like, I bet there's useful things or something like that. And so, continuing on, things get really, really weird really fast. You have to go and get your flashlight, and you go through the sewers. And it's starting to feel like this game has a pretty, routine setup here. You find things, you progress. You find things, you progress. And then all of a sudden, as you're exploring, you're completely knocked out and taken to this weird other world, and you have no idea what's going on. There's fires burning, the quality of the pictures has changed, like, everything's almost bright and is faded, like you're in some sort of dream. And you have to do these weird little puzzles that you have to figure out. Like, the first puzzle was that you have to match the room exactly with the picture that was on the wall of the room. And after you solve that, you expect maybe to wake back up, but no, things just get weirder. I mean, things get really fucking weird in this game, and it's like, whoa, this is crazy, because it's so different. And you don't even want to cheat in these parts, because you really want to figure out, what's going on. But the puzzles start getting more and more difficult, and things get really dark really fast. Which is cool, because I like horror games that are dark, that actually make you, think about what's going on. It makes you feel like you're being challenged, essentially. And so, like, it starts out and you have, these hands, for instance, this hand puzzle, where you have to pick up these hands that make these strange crunching noises as you lift them, and you have to pick them up in the right order. And as you pick them up, fire comes out of the palms of the hands, and that's the puzzle to go forward. That's interesting, that's different, because normally it's like, oh, here's a puzzle, go and solve these sliding pieces or something like that. It's not fun. Nobody wants to do that. Those aren't entertaining. And then the rewards for solving these puzzles are even more interesting because things are bursting into flames and there's no actual, like, side cutscenes. You just keep going. That's a really good element for these sorts of games. So then things, go back to normal, and once they've gone back to normal, you're like, oh, okay, let me just keep progressing through this sewer area. But you don't know now. You don't know if something else is going to happen that's going to drag you into this odd dream state. But then you hear a voice. Like, a voice starts talking to you. And you have no idea what's the deal with this voice. And so that's another mystery added to, the top of the whole weird Penumbra cake. So the atmosphere is building as you, crawl out of the sewers and you continue to progress through this facility. Things seem to feel, more comfortable now. You get a save point, you get a computer, and through the computer you're introduced to another character, a female character, Amabel, and she's the only human contact you have for the rest of this game. And so she's, a new character. She's kind of interesting in the sense that you're supposed to maybe meet up with her. She's helping you. You can't see her, but she can see you. And so you keep going and you're introduced to the monster again, and this time you're introduced to the idea that monsters patrol. And the fact that they patrol is terrifying, because that means you have to sneak around. It's just one of the really great, effects of this game, is that you have to sneak around through the monsters and get through all these challenges and these difficulties. in Amnesia, there's several times where the monster will just like vanish when he runs up to you. That doesn't happen here. Here, you actually, if the only time you can actually put the monster away is when you trap him in something, which is really interesting, and it's almost like a boss battle against something that you don't even have a weapon with. So, you know, you're fighting for your life, and you're trying to trick this thing, and you're trying to run around it, but he's still coming after you. And you really start to feel this sense of urgency, like you really need to survive this, which is a really cool horror survival effect. And I really approve of what they did with that. So you're progressing through these more and more open environments, and as you're going through, you start hearing more and more voices, and the voice in your head starts talking to you. He identifies himself as something else. And if you've actually read the notes so far, you realize that these are the signs of an infected individual, and you realize that you might be one of the infected. That is one of the really, like, oh, that's such a cool concept, because normally in these horror-style games, it's you against the monsters, but it's hardly ever you turning into the monster. So you're going on, and then the monster also has his own consciousness, and the monster is he just wants to get out. He just wants to live his life and be free, but that means that you will most likely die. And so then he starts causing you to hallucinate, which creates this level of this almost bond, I guess, between the user and this you know, non-existent character, which is really cool, because without that bond, you wouldn't really be nearly as interested in the fact that Clarence, is his name, was about to take over and possess your mind, essentially. So I really like that they did that. I hated that spider though. God damn, this spider is just everywhere. Ugh. So you're running around for a while, and it's a while before anything really happens, but then you discover your dad's dead body, and it's a bit of an interesting little side story, the fact that your dad, you know, died here trying to accomplish what you're now trying to accomplish. And so you take it upon yourself to sort of finish your father's work. I think it mentions at one point that you didn't even expect your dad to be alive, which is kind of depressing when you think about it, considering you set out on this and you were hoping to find your father, but all along you knew your father wasn't going to be alive. And this is also a random moment for me to mention the trophy system. They have these random collectible trophies, and I think that was like one of the dumbest things they could have added to this game. It completely detracted from the actual storyline. It was just, you know, little collectibles. It didn't do anything for you. It didn't unlock anything bonus at the end. All it was like essentially bragging rights. I don't know what they were going for with that. I think they were just trying to give the users something extra to do, but it wasn't entertaining. It didn't add to the value at all. In fact, it frustrated me more often than not when I thought it was something useful, like, you know, an item I needed or something like that, but instead it was just a trophy that just literally sat in your inventory and took up inventory space. But moving on from that, after that you wander around, you go to the outside world, which is interesting because it shows you that the outside terrain is harsh and, you know, basically uninhabitable, because you're dying if you stay out there for too long. You start to get like frostbite or something. And that's different usually, because when you have horror games, you are either put into this building and you say, you're told, like, you know, just don't go outside. Or if you do go outside, oh my gosh, somebody apparently is dying or something somewhere. The fire truck just went by. But anyways, essentially, you go outside and then there's, like, you know, monsters. The outside is essentially the same thing as the inside. This was cool just because it showed you, know, don't go outside. It's a bad idea. So you have to escape some other way. It gives you this increasing feeling of helplessness. So after you go outside, you come to this new part of the facility, and you find Annabelle. Like, she's in this room, and all you have to do is go and get the key card to get her out of there. And this whole area is just crawling with monsters, so the intense feeling of, you know, helplessness is increased tenfold, because every corner there's a monster. There's so many monsters, and they're just chasing you nonstop. They follow you everywhere. And so you keep going, and eventually you do get the key to get in to free Annabelle from her room. And that's, like, when this really interesting thing happens, because she was your only hope. She was your last, like, chance hope for anything, for any form of survival or human interaction or anything like that. And instead of, you know, really getting to her and, like, connecting with her and feeling the sense of security, you kill her. You murder her. You murder her with your own bare hands, because Clarence made her look like a monster. And then Clarence seems to show this level of regret almost. Like, he doesn't really understand the fact that you're grief-stricken by this. And then this gives you a boost of anger towards Clarence, you know, because of his misunderstanding, because he doesn't understand what's going on in your life and in your mind. And so you really, really want Clarence out, because by this point you realize that there is an antidote, and she was the one that created it. So, Amabel, that is, who is now deceased. So this is a very interesting plot point. The battle against her was strange and almost almost a little bit difficult. It wasn't as bad as the worm battle for me, but moving on from that, I mean, after you kill Amabel, you get all of her information and her card and stuff, and you go out and you set to make the antidote, because that's the only thing you have left to live for, is to get Clarence out of your head, because he is just this terrible parasite, essentially, upon your life. And when you go through all these things, you come to this sense of conclusion as you're laying there and you see, or as you're collecting on these items and you see the body of this infected creature laying there, and you don't know what's going to happen with it. Although, I mean, I saw it and I knew that it was going to get up, but I didn't understand that creature was the vessel for Clarence. It was a new vessel, and that was very it was interesting, because it pulled him out of your mind and put him in this body. And so from this point he's chasing you and you're expecting, oh god, now I have to kill him too. But you walk out of the door and the game takes this weirdest turn yet. Like, it takes this turn where Clarence you leave the room, you run out of the room, and Clarence gets surrounded by others of his kind, and they tell him that he's too human, that he's too individualized, and their creatures are based on, you know, this sense of oneness, and this being of, you know, one essential creature. It's really interesting. It reminds me a lot of the insects from Ender's Game. That book was a really good book. So it's very different, especially for a horror game, to take such a weird turn in the story. It's so weird. I can't get over how weird it was. And then from that point, the game is just completely different. It's like a completely new game. You have to solve these trials, and these trials are for you to think like the turn gate, which is, you know, the overlord mind thing that's controlling everyone, essentially. And the turn gate just seems to want to help you get through these things. And oh my gosh, I'm getting text messages. So as it helps you get through these things, you realize that you have to start to think like it. You have to start thinking in this mind of oneness, which your father apparently failed to do before you, and that's why he ended up dying. So it's like, you go through all this, and then you reach the conclusion of this game, and the conclusion is your character is slowly going mad in this one room. And you're like forced to pace, and as you pace, things get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it's so interesting because you see this progression to madness through your character, as the turn gate just explains everything that's happened, that it's been there before humans, and it asks you to save it, essentially, to protect its facility from being discovered once more, where they can do more experiments and try to get rid of it. So you're like pacing and you're like, what am I gonna do, what am I gonna do? And then you start typing the letter that you see at the beginning of the game. When you first turn the game on, you see this message from yourself, but you don't know that. So everything starts to tie in together, and it just ends in this most profound way, because you essentially say that you're going to, like, kill everything. You're just going to destroy it all. And it's so interesting. I really can't wait for the next game. And if you have the time, definitely pick this game up. If you want something that's, you know, a little bit frustrating, a little bit interesting, like with the storyline, and it has good puzzles, and it's really good at giving you the sense of completion, at the sense of, you know, exploration, and really understanding what's going on, then you should definitely check this game out. I haven't finished Amnesia. I'm going to finish Amnesia, and then I will probably do a review for Amnesia, and in that review I will compare these games better, because I like this game better so far. It's got such a more interesting storyline and heavier, you know, plots going on here. So, oh, I bumped my microphone again. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you were wondering about any of the things that I mentioned, you haven't seen it yet, go through and watch my walkthrough, just because it's pretty entertaining. I scream a lot, and it really is a good coverage of this very interesting game. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this. If you would like me to do more game reviews, if you hated it so much that you fell asleep and you never want me to do these again, that's fine. But aside from that, I will see you guys next time.